The imperial palace of Dravenir was a marvel of living metal and ancient power, its towering obsidian spires spiraling into a violet sky streaked with plasma clouds. It was a place where few humans walked, and none lightly. Except for one. Ilara Wynn, a human maid from the Terran frontier, walked its endless halls with a steady calm. She didn't belong here. She knew it. Everyone knew it. The Dravenir Empire, ruled by dragons who could shift between humanoid and colossal winged forms, rarely employed humans except as specialists or political tokens. Ilara was neither. She had been hired for one reason: to care for the Emperor's youngest son. Prince Varel, unlike most dragon younglings, did not roar, fly, or breathe sparks. He hardly spoke at all. His movements were repetitive, his interests narrow, his reactions unpredictable. Dragon healers called him unresponsive. Courtiers whispered defect. Some dared to call him broken. But Ilara saw none of that. She saw a child. A lonely one. Beginning, the maid, the prince, and the imperfect palace. Emperor Zevran the Black Flame, ruler of 17 star systems, destroyer of fleets, and feared warlord of his age, struggled with only one thing: his son. Varel was 6 cycles old, small for a dragonling, his scales a soft opal blue instead of the obsidian black typical of his lineage. He did not tolerate loud noises. He repeated words softly under his breath. He flapped his tiny wings when overwhelmed and hid under tables during court gatherings. None of the palace staff lasted more than a day. Until Ilara. That first morning, she found the prince curled under a crystalline table, rocking gently while glowing runes flickered around him. Most would have panicked. Ilara sat beside him. "Hi, Varel," she whispered. No royal title. No fear. Just gentleness. She didn't reach for him. Didn't touch him. Didn't demand anything. Instead, she took a small paper crane from her pocket, an old Terran craft she used during her volunteer work with neurodivergent children back home, and set it near him. Varel's rocking slowed. His luminous eyes fixed on the delicate folds. And for the first time in months, someone saw the prince smile. What Ilara didn't know was that high above them, in a concealed observation alcove built into the living crystal of the throne hall, Zevran the Black Flame watched. He had expected the human to fail like the others. But she didn't. She soothed. She supported. She understood. And something in the Emperor's ancient heart, long hardened by wars and political treachery, shifted. Middle, the Emperor's son and the human who changed everything. Ilara's days soon became predictable. Comfortingly so, for Varel and for herself. Morning sensory routine. Quiet reading time. Wing stretching. Soft voice conversation when he could manage it. The most amazing thing was how Varel responded to her. When overwhelmed, he tapped twice on her sleeve. When curious, he chirped softly. When afraid, he reached for her hand, not to hold, but to feel her presence. Ilara understood. He didn't need fixing. He needed support. One morning, she found him pacing in circles, wings fluttering anxiously. "Noise," he whispered, shaking his head. She knelt. "Do you want the silent room?" He nodded rapidly. She guided him gently, shoulders angled so she didn't block his movement, and led him to the sound-dampened chamber she'd created from unused royal quarters. She dimmed the lights, set the temperature cool, gave him a weighted mantle made of soft woven stardust threads. Varel lay down, breathing slow and even. Only then did she realize the Emperor was standing at the door. His obsidian-black scales shimmered faintly in the dim light, his humanoid form towering and regal, his molten gold eyes betraying a rare uncertainty. "You understand him," Zevran said quietly. Ilara bowed deeply. "I'm honored, Majesty. I have had entire academies of healers, tutors, and war priests attempt to reach him. You do so effortlessly." Her voice trembled. "Not effortlessly. Just patiently." Zevran studied her, a human woman in simple palace garments, hair tied back, hands still trembling faintly from calming a dragon prince. He had always valued power, strength, dominance. Yet here was a truth more powerful than any fleet. Kindness mattered. That night, Zevran did something unheard of. He asked Ilara to dine with him. Not in the throne hall. Not in the war chamber. In his garden. A small, quiet place Varel loved. He arrived in humanoid form, no armor, no crown, just a simple dark tunic. Fireflies floated between crystalline vines. "You are different from others of your species," he said. Ilara laughed nervously. "Different how? You do not fear him." "Why would I fear a child?" Zevran blinked, an incredibly human gesture for a dragon. "In my world, difference is seen as danger." "In mine," she replied softly, "difference is simply difference." For the first time in a century, the Dragon Emperor smiled. A small one, but real. The crisis, when kindness became heroism. The breakthrough came a month later. During a diplomatic summit, Varel wandered into the throne hall, overwhelmed by the noise, starlight chandeliers, and dozens of aristocrats in shimmering armor. He froze, wings twitching, breath quickening. Ilara, rushing to him, saw the panic overtaking his senses. "Varel," she breathed gently, "look at me." He couldn't. So she didn't force it. Instead, she crouched to his level, spreading her hands, providing safe sensory grounding. "Tap with me. Just tap." She drummed softly on the floor. Varel's hands shook, then tapped back. Slowly, his breathing steadied. But a foreign dignitary scoffed loudly. "Is this the future of your mighty empire, Zevran? A defective hatchling who cannot stand upright in a hall?" The room went painfully still. Zevran rose from his throne like an eclipse-given form, obsidian wings erupting into the air. But before he could unleash fury, Ilara stepped in front of the prince. She didn't speak with power, or threat, or anger, just truth. "His strength," she said, voice firm, "doesn't look like yours, but it is strength." Her presence comforted the child, who pressed his forehead gently to her arm, repeating one soft word. "Safe." Gasps filled the hall. The Emperor of Dravenir, feared across galaxies, witnessed something he had never seen. His son chose her, not by command, not by fear, but by trust. Zevran's gaze softened in a way that made the court whisper for days. The Emperor stepped forward, placing a protective clawed hand on Varel's back. "My son," he said, voice like a quiet storm, "is not defective. He is different and extraordinary. Any who mocks him mocks the throne." The dignitary paled. The matter was closed. Later, when the hall emptied and twilight filled the palace, Zevran found Ilara by a balcony, Varel asleep in her arms. "You defended him," he murmured. He deserved defending. You showed him love. She looked up. Someone had to. Zevran inhaled slowly, something painful, something hopeful forming in his chest. I have conquered armadas, he whispered. Crushed rebellions. Ruled through terror and awe, yet none of it earned Varel's trust. He doesn't need a conqueror, Ilara said softly. He needs a father. The Emperor's breath caught. For the first time in his reign, he felt seen. Ending. A family forged in gentleness. Weeks passed. Varel flourished. He spoke more. Slept better. Tolerated new foods. And he reached for his father, not out of fear, but comfort. One evening, during their shared garden ritual, Zevran approached Ilara, who sat with Varel curled in her lap, folding tiny paper dragons. Ilara, he said, voice trembling like molten metal cooling, I owe you a debt beyond empires. You owe me nothing, she whispered. He stepped closer. I saw you comfort my son, and something within me changed. I did not know a human could hold such power. Her heart pounded. It's not power. It's love. Zevran knelt, an emperor kneeling before a human maid, and touched Varel's head gently. You have brought peace to my heir. Then, more quietly, and to me. She looked into his molten eyes and saw not a ruler, but a father. A lonely one. A hopeful one. He reached out a hand, not commanding, not demanding. Inviting. Ilara Wynn, would you consider staying? Not as staff. Not as servant. His voice shook. As Varel's caregiver. And perhaps, something more to me. She froze. Then smiled. I think, she said softly, I already have. Varel chirped happily, placing a paper dragon in his father's hand. The Emperor, destroyer of fleets, ruler of 17 systems, broke into a gentle, trembling smile. And the palace began whispering about a new kind of dynasty, one built not on fear, but on family.